Okay, Mima. So by can we start off by you telling me your full name and your birthday?
My name is Bess Sanders. That's spelled Bess. And
Your birthday.
and I was born on April the 29th, 1927, over in the hills of Tennessee.
What part of Tennessee?
In Middle Tennessee, it had some lots of level areas, but also rather hilly uh, surroundings. There was lots of hills and valleys, up the hill and down in the valley like area.
Can you tell me your parents' names and your siblings?
I can't hear you, huh?
Your parents' names?
My parents were Ollie and Louise Pig. That's spelled Pigg. And yes, there was quite a bit of teasing and laughter at my name from time to time. And what else was it?
Did you have any brothers or sisters?
And I had two brothers, and and no sisters. There was just the two boys and one girl. And their names were Robert Davis Pig and Sam Pig. And when I finished high school, I went away to Nashville, Tennessee to nursing school. And that was I believe, a 3-year program in that time. And it was there that a big part of my life became a reality that I was grown as such.
Mm-hmm. So back at home, what kind of chores did you have?
Well, growing up on a farm, we had raised turkeys for the market, and we also had a number of chickens that we sold lots of eggs from the laying hens, and we had cattle and had cows that we milked morning and night, and we sold the milk to the milk truck would come by the farmhouses and pick up cans of milk. Every morning they ran this route, and also every evening they ran the route after milking time was done. When we raised chickens and turkeys and all kinds of farm animals, hogs and cattle, some for the market, some that you sold your old ones off and kept the younger ones. It was a very busy life, actually. In the summertime, you canned your vegetables from the garden and fruit from the fruit trees. And in the winter, you enjoyed eating them and trying to keep warm all through the winter days, nights. I guess that's about the summary of it.
Did you ever forget to do your chores?
Well, yes, occasionally I might fail to do it, but if you did, you got called and they went into the kitchen and there wasn't any water in the bucket, or very little, and no stove wood in the box. You got called out of bed and told to go and do it. So you didn't get by with things you're supposed to do. When you need to do them, you should always do them, unless you're sick. That's a legitimate excuse.
So did school ever interfere with your chores or anything like that?
No, you, not to amount to anything, you, 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 at night you filled up the stove wood box for the next day that they used in cooking. And so you didn't interfere with things like that. I can't remember now what else you asked.
I hadn't asked anything else yet, but if you want, you can tell me how far away you live from your school.
Oh, I suppose it was 35 to 40 miles away, I think, something like that maybe. But the school bus had a route that he ran in the country, and we went up the lanes and other little small country roads where the farmhouses were, and they picked up the students from school. Somehow they never came by our house, even though it was right on the roadside, conveniently located. But my mother always thought my dad ran against the man who is over the school bus routings one term, but he was not elected, and so I paid the price of never having a bus come by our door. I always thought. I don't know if that had anything to do with it or not.
Did you have a favorite subject in school?
I can't hear you.
Did you have a favorite subject?
Yes, you could. Well, all grades had subjects that were required, and then there were some subjects that, like, you could take geography and instead of civics or something on that order, you could, but usually your subjects were lined up pretty much what's required and not selective things that you took. Boys could take the boy equivalent to, like for girls, you would take home economics, but boys would have a choice of taking farming and other things like that instead of maybe civics or geography or something. You had some subjects that you could select, and some were required, of course.
So you mentioned earlier that schooling then was different than now. Did you ever think, like, were there ever any times that you wish that things at school would have changed?
Well, at the time, I didn't know any different, but what they had that you took, I didn't know there was a choice, maybe that you might have, like they do today. But no, most of the subjects that you were given to you were required subjects, and you didn't have a lot of choices like they may have today.
Mm-hmm. So did you play any sports?
I played basketball my senior year. My dad wouldn't let me play my other years. He felt that with my height, I grew to be 6 feet tall, which is very tall for a girl. And he did not let me play basketball my first 3 years because he felt that I would be subjected to name calling, and they were good at doing that from out in the arena, and the public would call names out, like High Pocket, and Skyscraper are two that I remember distinctly, that they would call someone who was exceptionally tall like I was, and he didn't want me subjected to those things. So I only played my senior year.
So did you have a lot of friends? Were you popular in school?
I can't say that I was popular, but I don't recall anything other than being well liked. I had many acquaintances and very friendly people toward me, but I was not subjected to names that they used to call out to people who might have a little different different size people. I was very tall, and there were names that people used then. They would call out from the audience at ball games, and he didn't want me subjected to things like that, so I only played my senior year.
No. So is there any stories you could tell me about anything? Did you ever go do anything with your friends, like out of school?
Not very much. We lived out in the country on a farm, and most farm kids had chores to do, and there was jobs waiting for them when they got big enough to do them. And so they helped out in the home, around the home, a lot more than children who were in town. They had more freedom and more time to devote to the school activities than the ones out in the farmland area.
Do you remember how you learned to drive? Who taught you?
Well, my mother did not drive, so she couldn't teach me. But my dad taught me some, and my older brothers were very good to help me and to teach me to drive, yes. There wasn't a lot of places to go because when you're big enough to drive, you're big enough to help around the farm. And so a lot of those times were spent doing the chores around the house that would help out. Like planting things in the garden, picking fruits and vegetables to can and canning, and little chickens to feed and big ones to gather the eggs and so forth. And so there was always chores to be done. Something could wait on you all the time. I had two of my main chores were I had to carry three 3-gallon buckets of water from the spring house to two went on the back porch and one went in the kitchen. And I had to fill the stovewood box up every night for my mother to do the cooking with the next day.
So did you ever do anything for fun, like whenever you weren't doing chores or school?
Well, yes. The local children around about would walk to in the summertime to our house. We had a big grass lot right next to the house, just a big wide area. The road was on one side, the coal country road, and then was this large grass lot, and where the animals and the chickens and all roamed out in there and grazed the grass and ate and things to eat. And we used to have a ball game on weekends, on Sunday afternoons, and And in the summertime on the afternoon, we'd play ball down in the grass lot that was right next to the house, actually. So there was a ride. I don't recall playing much other games in that period of time.
So, around that time, the World War II was going on. Was your family affected at all?
No, neither one of my brothers went to service. My youngest brother had a bone infection in one of his legs, and that exempted him from ever having a strenuous job of any kind. It had osteomyelitis, and at one time they thought he might lose that leg and they'd have to amputate it, but they managed to salvage it, and he had a limp. It left him with a weaker leg than the other one. And my brother was old enough that he helped tremendously in all the work of the farm, so he was exempted at that time from going to the service. And of course, my father, being the head of the household and doing farming work, he did not go to service either.
Was it Sam that had the problem with his leg?
Yes, Robert Davis, the oldest boy, was in good health. Sam was the younger boy. There was about 3 years difference in their age, I believe. And he's the one that had the bone infection, the osteomyelitis. And that would exempt him from ever going. And I was in nursing school, so maybe that helped me if they'd have taken women at that time, but they did not.
I also understand that back then there was rationing. Did your family have
There
rations?
was, yes, there was. You had books, little books, and my mother kept up with them. I never paid much attention to them, but they would take so many stamps. They would tear off a little page, maybe, or just part of the page for things that were hard to get. Like the meats were hard. You had a book that was rations meats, and they would take so many your stamps out of your book for certain amounts and kinds of meat. I don't remember much other about the rationing. Gasoline, I believe, was rationed at that time, either. Or also, I believe gasoline was rationed at one of the times.
Was sugar one of the things that was rationed?
Well, now, I believe sugar might have been, yes, sugar. I don't recall that flour or meal either one was, but I believe sugar was, yes.
So, did you take any part in the war effort?
No, I can't say that I did, other than they one time seemed like they certain kinds of cans, like tin cans, that they did save those, and they would pick them up sometime. But other rationing was be like sugar, I believe, was rationed, and I don't think flour and meal was, but and meats may have been, I'm not sure, but there was certain things that were rationed during the war periods.
So how did do you know how your parents felt about the war?
Well, we listened to the news, and you'd hear there's battles being fought, and how many was killed, and so forth. But there really wasn't much that you could do as far as that goes. Sometimes they had rationed, like sugar was rationed, and I don't know, I can't think of any other in the food line that was rationed, but I do remember sugar being rationed for a period of time.
Mm-hmm. So can you tell me about why you went into nursing school?
Well, yes, the school I went to was St. Thomas Hospital School of Nursing. It was a 3-year program, so there were seniors and juniors, and then your freshmen is what your beginners would be. And it was a very good experience. There was a class of about 40 girls in the class, and you have a dormitory to live in. You were assigned a room. At the beginning, the rooms were great big rooms, high, tall buildings and so forth. And there would be 4 to a room, and there was a bed in each corner, so to speak. And you were responsible for keeping your corner neat and in order. And we had a commode in there, but no other bathing facility. Maybe there was a sink. I guess there might have been a sink in there in the bathroom, but you had to go down the hall to a shower. It was not a shower in every room. I know that, but they expected you to keep your room neat and orderly, and we have inspections and so forth, and nuns would pin you a note if you needed to be better at it, in other words. But they were quite lenient. They didn't expect everything to be decent and always in shape all the time. They knew that there'd be a little bit of scattering along the way, I guess. But they'd leave you a note, and that'd be about the end of it, I guess. It wasn't too bad at that time.
So, what did you do after you got out of nursing school?
I got married. On my way back, I had been home for the weekend, and on my way on the bus, which is about an hour's ride back to Nashville, I sat down by a young man, and I never dreamed it. When I sat down by him, I was just looking for a seat so I didn't have to stand up, because when the bus pulled out of the bus station, there was usually 10 or 12 people standing up because there wasn't any more seats. And so I sat down by this young man, and on the way out of the bus station, we went by this filling station place, gasoline place, so forth, and I raised up and looked out the window and to see if I could see my brother who worked there. So as we went out, I raised up and leaned forward a little and over to so I could see out the window where he was sitting by, and he leaned back like I was going to touch him. I thought, I just asked him to pardon me and told him I was just looking to see if I could see my brother who works at the filling station. And then he asked me, who is your brother? And I said, Sam Pig. Well, he didn't seem too concerned or too thinking that Pig was an odd name. And come to find out, the reason he did was his sister had married a cousin of my dad, Hobart Pig. So he was familiar with the name, and so it didn't strike him as being odd, I guess you'd say. And would you believe I married him later on? Ha ha ha. Because when as we were pulling into the bus station, he handed me a piece of paper and a pencil, and he said, write me down your phone number if you would, please. I'd like for you to. And so I reluctantly took it, you know, and you believe that? Reluctantly? No, I wasn't reluctant about it, but I didn't shout or nothing like that.
Yeah.
But I wrote it down for him. And about a year later, when I got out of nursing school, I married him. Ha ha. And that changed my name from Bess Pig to Bess Sanders. And I guess that kind of kept me from having to explain my name. It wasn't so odd when I was growing up. I never thought anything about it. But when you get out of the county, it seems like nobody ever heard of such a name. But it was Pig, and Pig I was until I married Fletcher Sanders. I became Bess Sanders, and I didn't have to explain anymore.
Mm-hmm. Well, did people ever share with you any stories about what he did in the war?
Yes, he when he got out of the Navy, the first job he could find was one he took, and he worked at a filling station and pumping gas. There's quite a bit of exercise in that. And later on, he decided to go to Drones Business College, which would help him get into something better, some better work. And that's what he did.
Do you know what he did in the Navy?
In the Navy,
Mm-hmm.
Navy first class, but I can't tell you much of what he did. He never talked about it a lot, but he was, I can't think of it right off.
Well, that's okay. I'm sure he probably didn't talk much about it. So, can you tell me how many kids you had and all their names?
Yes, I had another year of schooling, and we went together that year, and became engaged and married as soon as I got out of nursing school, and we had 4 children, 2 boys and 2 girls. We had Richard, our oldest son, and Peggy, our next daughter, and then we had twins, a boy and a girl, and that's Jim Sanders and Janice. Janice Taylor she is now. She married a Taylor. So that was our 4 children.
Well, is there anything else that you'd like me to know? Is there anything else important?
Well, I'm very proud of my children. They've all done well, and they're all good citizens, and they all have decent and good jobs, ordinary jobs, and have done very well so far. I don't know, I can't think of anything else, I reckon.
Okay, well, then I guess that concludes my interview, and I really appreciate you taking time out of your day to
Thank you
answer
very
my
much.
questions.
Thank you
So,
much.
I'm gonna come over here and hug you. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Rodney. Thank you. I appreciate you. Thank you a lot.
No problem.